Apple has declared war on the open internet, which impacts all of you in one of the most openly hostile ways imaginable.
We thought that it's just a bug, and we moved on. We didn't think much of it because Apple releases these developer betas full of bugs. Later it became evident that this is actually just Apple being hostile towards EU, and now my reaction is shock.
The EU's been clamping down on Apple, requiring them to open the iPhone to better empower users and give them more control of their devices. This includes things like requiring Apple to no longer prevent users from installing apps outside the App Store, something that macOS and almost every other OS has allowed forever. Also, they're requiring Apple to no longer stop other browsers from using their own choice of a non-Safari browser engine, something else available on macOS and every other major OS. Apple's been extremely unhappy with these decisions, spreading misinformation and throwing tantrum blog posts, as this surely will impact their profits and tight control of their users. What really caught a lot of people off guard, though, is Apple almost completely killing overnight, very casually, in a development beta, a core feature they've supported and approved upon since the original iPhone: web apps.
You can write amazing Web 2.0 and Ajax apps that look exactly and behave exactly like apps on the iPhone. And these apps can integrate perfectly with iPhone services, and they're secure with the same kind of security you'd use for transactions with Amazon or a bank. And they run securely on the iPhone so that they don't compromise its reliability or security. Despite
Apple supporting and improving web apps since this original keynote on the first iPhone, Apple is about to roll out iOS 17.4, which will prevent you from utilizing web apps on your iPhone.
This is an iOS developer beta. We don't fully know the true depth of the impact, but we do know that if you're an EU resident, this will have a great impact on your day-to-day use of PWAs. After iOS 17.4 is that once you tap on the icon of a PWA, it will launch in Safari. While that might seem like a small cosmetic difference, there is actually a lot more going on under the hood, and we don't even know what the depth of this will be, but I can give you one example at least, is that quite recently Apple announced push notifications for PWAs. So PWAs could actually have notifications like regular native apps, but browser apps, in essence, if Crypty runs in the browser, won't be able to do push notifications. So PWAs are actually losing a lot of features as a result of this as well. For us, technologically, we're going to have to build a lot of different tools to make sure that our software continues to work as expected by our users. And we're going to have to spend a lot of time. We're going to have to spend a lot more engineering hours. We're going to have to educate our users better to understand that this isn't something that we did. This is something that Apple did.
Now, you might be asking why this is such a big deal, especially when many news outlets refuse to offer any critical commentary on the matter. First, you probably use web apps every day. On your computer, you likely use Gmail in your browser, Spotify can run in your browser, Discord, Bumble, Tinder, and YouTube, and yes, even Apple Music has a web app. These can all be added to your operating system in just a few clicks, and they'll act more or less like native applications, which can send you push notifications and function in many ways like the other apps on your device. This is important because these exist independent of an app store, meaning no central company can decide what apps can be hosted and which apps can be downloaded to your device.
The web is equal, right? It's decentralized. There is no central authority. There is no storekeeper. There is no gatekeeper. Everyone's free to publish a website. Nobody has to pay 30% fees to anyone. And web apps have been around for a very long time. In fact, iOS 1 had web apps before there was even an app store. The amount of control Apple has over apps in the App Store, they could pretty much do anything they want right now. If I remember correctly, 2021, they decided to remove Navalny's voting apps in Russia under pressure from the Russian government so that they can't consolidate their votes for the opposition. If this was a web app, this wouldn't happen because they wouldn't be able to do this. They would try to censor the website, perhaps in Russia, but they wouldn't simply be able to do Apple wouldn't be able to do anything.
Not only has Apple complied with Russia to actively work against an open democracy, but Apple has done similar things in other areas around the world like China, where Apple has complied with China's requests to remove applications from the App Store that would otherwise likely abide by Apple's own terms and conditions in other areas of the world.
And that's the most critical part. Russia could censor the website, but it wouldn't be Apple. Apple shouldn't be the arbiter of the truth or deciding what should be on the App Store and what shouldn't be on the App Store. We think that it should be open, and web apps are the perfect way to accomplish this.
To put it bluntly, if you want to create an application that anyone can download on any operating system with no central arbiters, web apps are the way forward. But now it's being killed off for apparent security issues, which haven't been expanded on, which Apple still seems to think is secure enough for the rest of the world outside the EU, where Apple doesn't feel their App Store monopoly is being threatened, coincidentally.
As for Apple claiming that this is all for security and privacy and whatnot, it's bullshit. Basically, some of the stuff that they said that would be too hard to do are actually not even legitimate requirements by the DMA in the first place. They're just making this shit up. So when they say stuff like site isolation, they don't mean the security feature that other browsers have been way ahead of Apple in implementing, like the Chromium site isolation. I'll send a link to Henry so he can put it in the description. What Apple's doing is they're hijacking the term site isolation to mean a specific style of PWA implementation where storage for PWAs are different from web apps running in a tab in the browser. So for example, if you're logged into Crypty in Safari, when you launch the PWA, you're not automatically logged in. The browser version and the PWA version don't share the same storage. That's what Apple's talking about. And that has nothing to do with the security aspects of site isolation, of, I don't know, Facebook being able to steal your information from google.com or anything like that. Try to see through those statements and try to analyze why Apple's saying these things, and you will come to the conclusion that very quickly come to the conclusion that they're actually trying to do this because they feel that their profits from the App Store are threatened by PWAs. But that's it. That's the only reason.
Make no mistake, this is a direct attack by Apple against the open internet. But we can't lose hope.
If you're impacted by this, and if Apple's EU PWA ban troubles you as much as it troubles us, there are 3 things you can do. The first is to go to openwebadvocacy.org. Henry will have the link in the description, I'm guessing, and let them know how you're impacted. I think it will be immensely helpful for them to put together a case. I think they're the best equipped organization to help you with this. The second thing you can do, and that will be incredibly helpful, is to contact your country's, especially if you're an EU resident, contact your country's competition supervisory authority. Let them know that you're impacted by Apple's actions and that you're being discriminated against and that Apple is taking a hostile action towards you as an EU resident. And the third thing you can do is contact EU DMA. In fact, they're a very evidence-based organization. They're incredibly friendly. They're very technical. They understand the details of everything quite well. They're not just bureaucrats. Let them know how you're impacted and let them know that this affects you deeply and you can't use your PWAs the way you were able to before. It will count. I promise that every single email you send will count in this case. So please do reach out to your country's authorities and to EU DMA and to Open Web Advocacy. Thanks for having me, Henry.
First, do what John said and get involved with the Open Web Advocacy group. They have clear and direct ways you can get involved. At minimum, follow them on your socials and stay updated on the issue, but ideally, you're able to donate to them and or offer your direct help and support and contact your politicians. If you're a developer of any web apps, you are especially needed and should act as soon as possible to communicate how this impacts you. Second, share this video and or the Open Web Advocacy Group's article around with your friends, family, and anybody else. Third, easier said than done, but please do not forget about this. There are hundreds of things happening all at once on the internet, and it's easy for everyone to get distracted with new issues, and it's something that Apple is counting on. I'll leave links to everything down below, and if there are any ideas that any of you get individually that you think could help, definitely leave those ideas down in the comments, and or if they involve a specific person, please contact that respective person individually so that any of us can try to help out where we can in any ways that we haven't thought of. I want to thank John from Crypty for sharing his insight. I want to thank the Open Web Advocacy Group for everything that they're doing, and I want to thank you all for being here. Lastly, I want to thank our patrons on patreon.com/techlore, which you can also join and be a part of in order to help us spread messages like these to more and more people. Join Patreon down below. It really helps us a lot. And do not forget to get involved in the issue. I'll see you all next time on Techlore. All links for everything are down below. Let's go kick some corporate butt. Peace out.